In the book of Revelation, there are colors given to the apocalypse. The first one is the white horse. The second one, the red horse. The third one, the black horse. And the fourth one, the green horse. But the thing is, the amazing thing is the colors of the apocalypse have been appearing all over the world.
Okay, Rabbi Jonathan Cahn, I am so excited to see you because, okay, let's go back to 2011. 2011 is when I first met you and I heard your teaching on the Harbinger and I was like, what? How could he figure out? I mean, I know it was through the Lord, but how could he figure out these patterns? And I mean, through the years, the Lord has shown you mysteries, and you have so many amazing books. But anyway, yeah, 2011. Then I had the privilege, and it was a blessing to be able to produce your shows on Sid Roth's programs. Yeah. But there's another thing. We have another connection, and you and I both got saved by reading the late great Planet Earth. So
wow, so many people have. Were turned to the Lord from that. That began my journey from being an atheist at like 13 years old, 14, and then it was about 6 years later when I got hit by a train that I came to the Lord. That's how I came to the Lord. But it was the late great Planet Earth that turned me from being an atheist. It was amazing, and how Lindsay just went to be with the Lord, but he touched so many people. And yeah, that show that we did on Sid. For the Harbinger, which was again 2011, actually was just before the Harbinger came out. It was like a few months before, but that was the first ever program I did on the Harbinger or any book I wrote. That was the first book. Yeah.
Well, I remember where I was sitting when I heard the teaching, and I mean, I almost fell out of my chair because it was so. And I think I know what your key is. I know how you get these revelations. In back of you, okay, I have a keyboard, but you have a keyboard in back of you, and I think you're a worshiper. And so I think that's how you get these amazing revelations. But okay, now your new book, The Dragon's Prophecy, Israel, the Dark Resurrection, and the End of Days. I mean, this is unbelievable. And it's like the mysteries in there, the patterns that the Lord has shown you, and not only for what has happened recently, but for the future too. So, okay, why do you think this book has become the #1 bestseller?
Yeah, well, first, Janie, I was not even planning on writing this book. I was writing another book, and the Lord interrupted me and said, "This is the book you have to write now." So that was the first thing. Second, I've never written a book so much opening the end times, and really what's happening now. I mean, so much is unfolding now. So much is happening and accelerating, in regarding prophecy, regarding even things that touch on Revelation, touch on Ezekiel, happening now. And so much change is happening. I think that so many people, not only believers, but unbelievers, are saying, what's going on? There's got to be a reason. There's got to be something, or what is happening, or is this what the Bible said? And this book, as I'm writing it, Jenny, it actually, what I'm writing is coming true across the world. So it kept happening. I'm writing it, and then it's coming true. I had to keep updating it. Even after I finished it, it has continued to come true.
Okay, so on October 7th, how does that tie in with the Dragon's Prophecy?
Yeah, well, it was a Friday night in October. And I was led to, I was at Beth Israel, the congregation I lead here in New Jersey, and I was to speak. I was led to speak about a mystery from the book of Leviticus, and this mystery actually foretold that there would be an invasion of Israel. It would take Israel by surprise. It would happen in the year 2023. It would happen in the month of October, would take place on a Saturday, would happen on a Hebrew holy day. Altogether, the mystery from the Bible ordained that there would be an attack, a surprise attack on Israel on the first Saturday of October of 2023. And the thing is, the first Saturday of October of 2023 was October 7th, the very day that the invasion began. And the thing is that I shared that mystery at Beth Israel on Friday night. The next morning it came true. And this is the mystery that really began the Dragon's Prophecy. And the thing is that this is one of the mysteries in the book that may enable us not only to know future events, but in some cases exactly when they will happen. And after I finished the book, at least three other mysteries from that, other events from that same mystery have continued to come true.
Yeah, this is Bible prophecy that other people have not tapped into. I mean, it's mysteries that the Lord has shown you and patterns, including President Trump is in some of those patterns. I mean, it's unbelievably amazing. Now, can you explain what is the secret of the sea peoples?
Yeah. Well, this is, it goes to kind of the mystery of the enemy. And, there's some people who will believe in God, but they have a problem believing in the enemy. But you can't dismiss, you can't explain what's happening in the world without that. And you cannot explain Jewish history without that. In the book of Revelation, this is what, Janie, when I was praying about what to do, what book to write, and the Lord was beginning to lead me, I was seeing this dragon, and I knew it was from Revelation, the red dragon in Revelation. That is the enemy, is a symbol of the enemy, and he wars against a woman who has a crown of 12 stars around her head, who is Israel. So you have the dragon warring against Israel, you have Satan warring against the Jewish people. And that war has been going on for thousands of years, and it's amazing because it's really what you'd expect, because what would you expect if you have a being that exists to destroy the purposes of God, and then you have a people who exist to fulfill them? You're going to have a war. And that's why the Jewish people have been the most persecuted people in the world, the most hated people, the most vilified people. That's why Israel is the most attacked nation, because you cannot explain it. You can't explain things like Hitler without the enemy. This is what the Bible says. So what happened on October 7th was all part of that ancient mystery. And the thing is that the enemy is an imitator. So he imitates God. And the thing is that, so what did God do in the modern world? He resurrected the ancient nation, Israel, brought it back into the modern world. So what's the enemy going to do? And a lot of people have never realized this, and you'll never hear this on CNN or anything else. The enemy is going to also resurrect an ancient people. And he's going to, which people? It's going to be an enemy people of Israel, because he's the enemy. So he's going to bring them back to war against Israel and to war against its right to exist. So who were the ancient enemies, arch enemies of Israel? They were called in the Bible the Philistines. Could the enemy have resurrected them? He already did. And this is not about the people. We got to pray for all people. They don't know what they're doing. But here's the thing. There's the people who have come into the world, in the modern world. They're called the Palestinians. The word Palestinian, people don't realize, actually means the Philistines. In fact, the word Palestinian in their language, they don't say Palestinian. The word is Philistini. They call themselves the Philistines, literally. And the thing is that as God is resurrecting Israel, the enemy, at the same moment, at every step, is resurrecting the ancient enemies of Israel. There's a people who are being conformed into their image step by step to war against it. So again, what we saw, on October 7th was all part of that mystery. The enemy's behind it. And the thing is, there was a place, Janie, that the Philistines had their headquarters. It was their little strip. It was called Philistia in the Bible, the land of the Philistines. Well, today it still exists, but it has a different name. Today it's called the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip is the land of the Philistines. And the thing is, when people don't realize, the Gaza Strip did not exist. I mean, Gaza did, but not the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip, when it came into the world? In the year 1948, the very year that God resurrected Israel, the enemy resurrects the ancient Philistia, and the people called Philistines, as the Jewish people are going back to the land of Israel. At the same moment, the people called the Philistines are going back to the land of the Philistines. It's all a setup by the dragon for what we are witnessing right now.
It's like I always knew that Israel became a nation in 48. But I never realized what you're talking about and how the enemy tried to then, okay, you're going to do that? Well, then I'm going to do this. I mean, and you explain it way more in the book. Now, I didn't realize that Hamas is mentioned in the Bible. So explain that.
Yeah. Hamas is an Arabic word, strange word, because it's an Arabic word, but it's also an ancient Hebrew word at the same moment. In Arabic, it means the Islamic resistance movement or Islamic zeal. In Hebrew, though, the word Hamas, as Hebrew word, means evil, violence, and destruction. And so, and it actually appears in the Bible. And when you look, I open this up in the Dragon's Prophecy, that you look at the Bible in the original language, for instance, it says in the Bible, it says in the Hebrew scriptures, Lord, save me from the men of Hamas. It says Hamas has risen up in the land as a rod of evil, and the land's filled with crimes of bloodshed. It says, you know how Hamas hides in the tunnels under the earth? Well, the Bible says Hamas dwells in the dark places of the earth. And then it says in the prophets, God says to Israel, rid Hamas from the land. And it says in the promise of Isaiah, it says in that day when Messiah reigns, it says in that day, Israel, no more shall Hamas be heard in your land.
I had no idea about that until I read your book and the details that you just said. I mean, how could someone not believe in Bible prophecy? Now, you also explained in the book about that Adolf Hitler had a part in October 7th, even 9/11.
Yeah, if you expect, with this, if it's a war that's ancient and it continues, the enemy doesn't die. So in every generation, from ancient times to modern times, this war against the Jewish people or Israel is going to happen. And so you'd expect there'd be a link, there'd be some connecting between these. He raises up one vessel, then they fall, he raises up the next, and the next, and the next. So there'd be like a passing of the torch. Well, there is. There was a guy named al-Husseini. He was famous for being called the Mufti in the Middle East. And he was responsible for Jewish bloodshed. He hated the Jewish people. But when he was going to be brought to trial, he flees to Germany. And he goes to Berlin, and he meets with Adolf Hitler. And he there makes an alliance, and he begs Hitler to bring the Holocaust to the land of Israel. Hitler said he would as soon as if he won, winning the war, he'll bring it to Israel. Well, the Mufti ends up working for Adolf Hitler as his employee. He broadcasts on Radio Berlin is Nazi hatred infecting the Islamic world. And then after the war, he's going to be brought to trial in Nuremberg as a war criminal, but he escapes and goes back to Egypt. And in Egypt, he's hailed as a hero, and he becomes the father of Palestinian nationalism. There's a worker from an employee of Adolf Hitler. So you got a line from Adolf Hitler to Gaza. And not only that, but in Egypt, he encounters a teenager, an Egyptian teenager, and he takes him under his wing and he trains him and mentors him and teaches him and he disciples him. He becomes his disciple. The Egyptian teenager's name was Yasser Arafat. You got a direct line from Adolf Hitler to Yasser Arafat. And not only that, but Hitler also sponsored an organization, a new organization. He gave it money, he gave it training. It was called the Muslim Brotherhood. And the Muslim Brotherhood directly gave birth to Hamas. So here's this organization by Hitler, gave birth to Hamas. And when Hamas was founded, the founding charter, basically it reads as the words of Adolf Hitler. And the thing is that, not only that, when October 7th happened, there were people, around the world and people in Israel and Holocaust survivors saying this is just like the Holocaust. That's what they did. They went house to house. It reminded them it was the worst day for Israel since the Holocaust, Jewish history. And the thing is, though, Hitler put a man in charge of the Holocaust. His name was Heinrich Himmler. And he chose as the day to put him in charge of the territories to begin the Holocaust. The day he chose was October 7th. Oof. So October 7th was the anniversary of that. And in fact, Himmler was born 39 years before he was appointed on the date of October 7th. It was all the anniversary. It's the fingerprints of the dragon.
Wow. I can't, those parallels are really, they're amazing. Now, how is the Hamas invasion of Israel connected to the book of Revelation?
In Revelation, it says that the dragon who wars against the woman, Israel, it says he spews water like a flood, a river out of his mouth, a flood. He floods her, tries to flood her away. And the earth swallows the water and saves the woman, but he tries by the flood. Well, October 7th was the dragon's attack on Israel. And the amazing thing is that Hamas, who were the vessels, they named it. They had a code name, and they didn't call it the October 7th attack. They called it Operation Tufan. Tufan is the Arabic word for the flood. It was Operation the Flood, as in the dragon's flood.
Okay, I mean, that's very, very specific. There's so many specific Bible prophecies that so many people have missed. Now, the dragon's prophecy, you speak of a mystery of the Jubilees, and this is also connected with President Trump. I find it so interesting.
Oh, there is so much to this. First of all, remember the enemy, and I bring in the book, I'm bringing out how this mystery that links the enemy to the timetable of God. And the thing is that the enemy again is an imitator, but he's also a desecrator. So he takes the things of God and he tries to defile it. So it's no accident that all these things happen on October 7th, because October 7th happened to be not one and not two, but three Hebrew holy days all converging on one day. So he chose that day. He couldn't resist to defile each one. I won't go into all the details, but from the Sabbath to to Simchat Torah, the day of joy, he just defiled each one. But also there is the Jubilee. And the Jubilee is every 50th year. It's restoration. If you lost your land, you get it back. You return home in the year of Jubilee. And the amazing thing is that when God brought Israel back into the world as he promised, according to all the prophecies in modern times, he actually did it according to the mystery of the Jubilee, which kind of really makes sense, because the Jubilee, you return home. So the Jewish people are returning home and being restored. So I'll just give a very quick nutshell because there's so much in this. But for instance, 1867 was one of those years where it begins this restoration. The Sultan of Turkey releases the land, so Jewish people actually, for the first time, can start redeeming and buying back the land of Israel in the year 1867. And there's more that happens in that year. Actually, ancient Jerusalem is uncovered, is discovered for the first time. The city of David, so much begins. But count 50 years to the next Jubilean year, takes you to the year 1917. Anything happen? Well, in the Jubilee, the one who has your land has got to get off. Well, in the 1917, it's World War I. And the British come into the Middle East under a Christian general, Allenby, and the Turks, who are occupying the land of Israel, flee the land after 400 years. They flee the land. And the British issue in that same year the Balfour Declaration, which promises the land back to the original owner, Jubilee, the Jewish people. And the thing is, so that all begins at, but they don't get Jerusalem. That's their holy city. But what happens if you count 50 years? It takes you to the year 1967. Anything happen? In that 67 comes the 6-day war. And on the third day of that war, the soldiers of Israel enter through the gates of their holy city. For the first time in 2,000 years, God restores the ancestral possession, Jubilee. Year of Jubilee, you got to go back. And the amazing thing is that at the moment they were restored, there's a rabbi named Rabbi Goren, and he's with the troops as they enter the holy city. And when he gets to the Temple Mount, he sounds the shofar. This is the sound of the Jubilee. The shofar sounds as they come into their possession. Now, he wasn't doing it knowing all the mysteries. He was just led to do it. The amazing thing is that Rabbi Shlomo Goren was born in 1917, the other Jubilee. And when in 1967, he was 50 years old. It was his Jubilee.
Oh my goodness.
And he sounds the shofar. And the amazing thing is that his name, Goren actually means, or Gorenshek from the original, means horn. Rabbi Horn sounded the horn of Jubilee in the year of Jubilee in his own Jubilee. But now the one thing that they didn't get, and this goes with what you were saying, when you in the Jubilee, you don't just come home, you get the legal right. You're not just, you are recognized. It is your legal right restored. Israel never got it. The world refused to recognize Jerusalem. But count 50 years, it takes you to the year 2017, next Jubilee. Anything happen? In that year, President Trump of America issues the Jerusalem Declaration, restoring the legal right to Jerusalem, the Jewish people, as the eternal capital, in the year of Jubilee. And I am sure that Trump was not studying the original Hebrew when he decided to do it on that day. He probably just woke up and said, it's a good day to do it. I think I'll do it. And that was it. And the amazing thing, though, think about that. In 1967, the key person was Rabbi Goren, which means Rabbi Horn. The key person in 2017 is President Trump, as in trumpet. So no accident. So you got Rabbi Horn and President Trump. So God is amazing. But now the enemy is that imitator and desecrator. So he's going to take the mystery of the Jubilee and he's going to invert it, turn it against Israel. So how's that going to happen? Well, there was one event. It wasn't a victory. It was a calamity. And it was the worst calamity for Israel up until October 7th. It was called the Yom Kippur invasion or war. And there was an invasion, took Israel by surprise. It was the word, it almost brought the destruction of Israel. The prime minister almost committed suicide. They all were ready for destruction. And God miraculously turned it around. They won, but it shook them to this day. It was their worst war, the worst loss of life. Well, the enemy's going to take it and make it into a devil's jubilee. And so what happens if you take that year, that invasion, 1973, count 50 years to the Jubilee. It takes you to the year 2023. When did the Yom Kippur happen? In the month of October. So the Devil's Jubilee will happen in the month of October. What day? It happened on a Saturday. So this is going to fall on a Saturday. It happened on a Hebrew holy day that went back to Leviticus 23. So this is going to happen on a Hebrew holy day that goes back to the same chapter. And the Yom Kippur War happened on the first Saturday of October of 1973. So if you take the first Saturday of October of 2023, it's October 7th. In fact, when I in the book, in the Dragon's Prophecy, there are prophetic countdowns of thousands of days one of them starts in the 20th century, and it leads to the exact Saturday morning of the attack that happened.
Wow. Okay. Was that the 18,263rd day?
Oh, yeah. That's one of them. There's actually two countdowns, but the 18,000th one actually begins in 1973. I mean, and it ends up falling on the exact day. And the amazing thing is that the reason why it does is, there's a mystery to these things, but it's because of leap years, it falls on the exact day of that Saturday morning. In fact, when I told you at the beginning that when the Lord led me to share, at Beth Israel about this mystery, I was sharing about the 50-year mystery. And that Friday night, it was October 6th, which was the 50-year anniversary of the Yom Kippur War when I shared that mystery. But the amazing thing is, because of leap years, when you take the exact number of days, it doesn't fall on October 6th, it falls on October 7th, that Saturday morning, the very morning it happened.
Everything is so specific in the scriptures. Now, do you have to, I know we have limited time, but can you explain the wars of iron?
Yeah, well, in the Bible, the wars between Israel and the Philistines, or which is the Gaza Strip, Philistia, were centered on iron. At one point, it says in the Bible that the Philistines didn't allow the Israelites to make anything of iron or metal. They didn't allow them, and they had an advantage. But once the Israelites got iron, they started winning under David. And the thing is that, and so it was all about that. And so it's amazing, because when you look at the war between what just happened, what began, this is the biggest war between the Israelites and the Philistines since the Bible, what we're witnessing right now. And it's amazing because iron is all part of it. Number one, to defend Israel was called the Iron Dome. They had another thing called the iron sword, the iron, everything was called iron. All these weapons are called iron, and the actual war was called swords of iron. The war, Israel called it. And that's actually in the Bible. It says in some of the versions, it says the Philistines stopped the Israelites from making swords of iron. So it's called swords of iron. I mean, there's so much.
Really. I mean, okay, it's all in here, very, very specific, and more details on it. Okay, now can you explain the colors of the apocalypse?
Yeah, the largest part of the book of the Dragon's Prophecy is called the End of Days. It's about what's happening right now, linked to ancient prophecies. One of the mysteries is that the colors of the apocalypse. You know, in Book of Revelation, there are a lot of colors, but there are colors given to the apocalypse. The first one is the white horse for conquest. The second one, the red horse for war. The third one, the black horse for famine. And the fourth one, the green horse, pale or green horse for death. So those are the colors of the apocalypse, which ultimately are going to center on Israel in the book of Revelation. But the thing is, the amazing thing is the colors of the apocalypse have been appearing all over the world. And they've been appearing wherever there's hatred for Israel. Whenever there's rage against Israel, where there's a gathering, they gather around a banner. And the banner, which happens to be the flag of Palestine, is white for the white horse, red for the red horse, black for the black horse, and green for the green horse. And the thing is, every nation that has those colors, that configuration of colors in their flag, it marks them as an enemy of the nation of Israel.
Yeah, no, that's unbelievable. I mean, I knew a little bit, like maybe like one flag, but not so many different flags. And now, what's the connection with the invasion of Israel described in Ezekiel? I mean, because everyone's talking about when is the Ezekiel war going to happen, and I didn't realize some specifics with October 7th.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Ezekiel actually gives a specific prophecy of an invasion of Israel, and it's clearly for the end times. It says after Israel has been gathered back from the nations, it says in the latter days, this will happen. So, and he mentions the names of by their ancient names, the lands, and we can identify a whole bunch of them from their ancient names or the lands. And, one of them is Cush or Sudan, biblical Ethiopia. Another one is Put or Libya, North Africa. Another one, Togarmah, and a number of others are Asia Minor or Turkey. And then there's the whole issue of Russia. But he specifically mentions Iran, Persia. And so here's the thing. I didn't realize this. Now these nations have never directly attacked Israel. Other nations around them, but in ancient days, they were a little bit away from Israel. So it's weird that Ezekiel mentions these ones that are far away in many ways. And the thing is, they never did. But Ezekiel says they're all going to partake in an invasion of Israel. Well, the thing is, Janie, they actually now, for the first time ever, have. You see, Cush, Sudan was behind the invasion of Hamas of October 7th. Libya, was also behind it. They funded it. They did all. Turkey was also behind it, Togarmah. And Iran was definitely behind it. And so for the first time ever, we just crossed a prophetic red line. This has never happened. It's still to come, but we crossed the line toward where we're getting there. And it mentions, for instance, Iran is going to attack Israel. Iran has never directly attacked Israel until now. For the first time in human history, now, Iran has attacked Israel in the spring and in the autumn. It just happened. And so we crossed another prophetic line. It is accelerating.
Right. The stage is set. And more than ever before. Now, what's the ancient entity called the SAR Paras? And you said that it actually ties in behind current and dangerous world events.
Yeah. One of the things that the book opens up, it's kind of like, Jenny, I know we know this, but still, there's so many people, including believers, who don't realize how much this is so. But behind everything that's happening, there's a spiritual realm, and there's a prophetic realm, and there's mysteries. And when you take away the veil, it all makes sense. And the thing is, there's an ancient entity that's mentioned in the Hebrew scriptures. It's called the SAR Paras, and the SAR Paras it exists. It's an entity. It's demonic. And it exists to war against Israel and stop God's purposes from being fulfilled in Israel, particularly for the last days. And the thing is, it's called SAR Paras. Well, SAR means master, ruler, or general. Paras is the ancient word for the nation of Iran. So the Bible is saying there's an actual entity that is connected to the nation of Iran. And so if you want to understand what's going to happen, if you want to understand what's going on, why is Iran, first of all, so obsessed with Israel, with destroying Israel? Because it's being moved by an entity that exists to destroy Israel. And why is Iran, the government and the system, I'm not talking about all the people, but why is it so demonic in what it's doing? It tries to get destruction. It tries it foments, destruction all over. And because it's being moved by this being, this entity. The Bible reveals it thousands of years ago. And the other thing is that Iran actually, when Israel first came back, was a friend of Israel. But then this turn happened. It took over, and it became this arch enemy of Israel. And the thing is that nations of the world, they try to keep Iran in control. But you cannot negotiate with a demonic entity. You cannot use diplomacy. I mean, you could try, but that's not going to solve it. And the other thing is, so that's why Iran's obsessed. Now, the other thing is that on the other side, the Bible also reveals there's an ancient entity that is connected to Israel, and it's called the SAR Yisrael, or the General of Israel. And this entity, the Bible says, is there to protect Israel, especially in the last days. So what is it? Well, the name of this entity, it means in Hebrew, who is like God. But in Hebrew, the way you say that is Michael or Michael. Michael, the Bible says he is actually defending Israel. And so the thing is, when all these things are going on in the Middle East, behind it, on one hand is Iran and the SAR Paras. Hezbollah, behind Hezbollah is Iran, and is the SAR Paras. Behind Iran, behind October 7th was Hamas, but behind Hamas is Iran. Behind Iran is the SAR Paras. It's all there. It's all connected. And when Iran, they launched all those missiles to attack Israel, most of them were struck down before they ever came to the land. Now, there's someone who studied the Iron Dome, and they said there's no way the Iron Dome could have done that in that span of time. But we know someone who can. And the thing is that the Bible reveals there's someone who's actually warring in the heavenlies. So you have these two entities warring in the heavenlies. That's why on earth, the two nations are at war. And yet, so behind all these things are the SAR Paras. On the other hand, behind the defense of Israel is the Israeli Defense Forces. Behind the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, is the SAR Yisrael. Behind the SAR Yisrael is Messiah, God.
Right. And when you really look at it in the natural, I mean, how could Israel even be surviving when there's so little, the size of New Jersey? Yeah. So you have to know that it's very, very supernatural. Now, what's the ancient mystery behind the sudden death of the Iranian president?
Yeah, the head of Iran at the time of all those missiles, who approved all those missiles going in, was a man named Ebrahim Raisi. Now, think about it. He's Abraham. He's named after Abraham, the father of the Jewish people, who he's trying to destroy. And his very name bears witness to the Abrahamic covenant that he's breaking. And so, and God says, Israel's the apple of my eye. You touch Israel, you're touching the apple of God's eye. Well, he did. He sent all those missiles in, and after he did it, around 30 days later, he was struck down dead. And the thing is, this guy, he tried to bring destruction to Israel through these airborne missiles, these airborne objects, so that when they crashed, there'd be destruction. Well, so the Abrahamic covenant, whatever you do is going to come back. Now he's in an airborne object. He's in a helicopter, and it crashes, and he is destroyed. Exactly what he tried to do to Israel. But not only that, after he sent those missiles in, people don't realize, he actually threatened destruction. He announced the destruction of Israel. He threatened there's going to be nothing left of Israel. Well, that's blasphemy, because Israel is God's nation. You are not going to destroy it. Okay, but he did. It was blasphemy. The day before he was struck down in that helicopter. The day before, it was a Sabbath day. And all over the world and in Israel, the Jewish people are opening up their scrolls to the word appointed from ages past. What was the word? The word ends with saying, the man who spoke the blasphemy shall be struck down. The next day he was. And not only that, but God, in Ezekiel 38, when he talks about the different nations that are going to attack Israel, one of them is Iran, and Iran is the first one to ever actually do it directly. He says, I will bring you against the mountains, and you will fall upon the mountains. Well, when Ebrahim Raisi was struck down, he was brought down literally on the mountains. He fell upon the mountains.
It's so very specific. Okay, now there's just like so many exciting things. So that's why I'm wanting to get so much in. So what's the connection between the Temple Mount, October 7th, the Antichrist, the five red heifers, the secret of the Mount?
Yeah, there's so much here. Well, the thing is, the Temple Mount is the ground zero of prophecy. It's where everything is going to, it's where the Antichrist is going to go. It's where the temple is going to go. It's where Messiah is going to reign from. So just by that, it's going to be warred against. There's going to be a spiritual war against this. You know that. And the enemy is going to do everything to fight to not let God's purposes happen on that mount. And so it's not an accident that right now, Jewish people are not technically allowed to go up there and worship, on that mountain. The enemy has kept it. It said, he's kept control of it. Well, if anything threatens that control, the enemy is going to go crazy. All hell, the dragon is going to go crazy. Well, people don't realize, but something actually happened. It was months before October 7th, and it was on a Hebrew holy day. It was Passover. And the rumor spread that Jewish people were going to go on the mountain to celebrate Passover on the mountain, on the Temple Mount. First time in thousands of years. Well, that caused all hell broke loose on the Temple Mount. And it was that led Hamas to issue a threat to Israel saying, because of this, we are going to basically you're playing with fire and basically threaten revenge. The revenge was October 7th for the Temple Mount. And the thing, it wasn't just Hamas, it was the dragon. He's saying, you touch my mount, you touch that, I claim it, you touch it, I'm going to go crazy, I'm going to wreak havoc. October 7th was from the Temple Mount. In fact, when Hamas gave their statement about why they did October 7th, they said it was because of the Temple Mount. It said because you tried to do this and you tried to celebrate your sinister festivals on it. Sinister. I mean, it's the devil talking. And they also, in one of their statements, they mentioned the red heifers. They said because of those cows, those red cows, who's going to be threatened over cows? Well, the dragon is, because he knows what it means. So all these, in fact, Janie, not only that, but also people don't realize behind the calamity of 9/11 was also the Temple Mount and prophecy. Temple Mount. Actually, when Osama bin Laden said why he did it, it was almost the same words that Hamas used 20 years later when they said why they did October 7th. So at both events, it said it was because of the Temple Mount, he said. So this is not bin Laden, it's not Hamas, it's the dragon.
Now, this is just speculation, but some people were saying that Trump's administration, some are very, very pro, like building the temple. Do you think during his, when he's president, that they could rebuild the temple? Well,
there is at least one major guy who actually made a statement a number of years ago who said, basically, he talked about the temple is to be rebuilt. And he's big for the Trump administration. Yes. It could be, for Trump to do what he did, to recognize Jerusalem, that was a Cyrus act. To do that act, when Cyrus did it, it led to the building of the temple. And when he recognized Jerusalem, when Cyrus issued a proclamation, about concerning Jerusalem, it led to the rebuilding of the temple. So yeah, in fact, when Trump did it, people in Israel issued coins with Trump's face on it and Cyrus on it. So they linked it to the rebuilding of the temple. So, could it begin? Yeah. Or could major things happen to lead to it? It could.
Yeah. And for those who are, you who are watching saying, oh, well, then he's the Antichrist. I'm like, no, the Antichrist, it doesn't say anything in the scriptures that the Antichrist is supposed to rebuild the temple. So anyway, but let me just ask you, with everything that's gone on, how is like this ancient mystery connected to, we're seeing so much anti-Semitism?
Yeah, well, in the same prophecy or the same vision where the dragon spews, or actually in Revelation where he spews flood out of his mouth, in Revelation it also says, from the dragon's mouth comes these spirits that spread throughout the world and they gather the world to Armageddon. That's to destroy Israel. So it says the enemy's going to do that. The amazing thing is after October 7th, you'd expect a wave of sympathy all over the world for Israel. There was a little, but the amazing thing wasn't that. The amazing thing was the world erupted with rage. even before the war, even before Israel did anything, when all it was Jewish blood shed. And so, and that make, it was spiritual. It was like a spiritual blood frenzy. That it's like the demons sensed Jewish blood and they went crazy, not just in the Middle East, but in Europe and America, on Harvard University. And they're chanting, from the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free. Well, they're chanting for the destruction of Israel in Harvard and all these universities. But not only that, there's a mystery to that, because it actually shows the fingerprints of the enemy. Because remember, the enemy takes the things of God and he twists them. So the amazing thing is, where that comes from? From the Bible. It comes from when God himself gives the promise of the land of Israel to the people of Israel. He says again and again, I'm giving it to you from the river to the sea, from the river to the sea. It's the enemies, the dragon's fingerprints. And this is all linked to end time prophecy, because the Bible says in the last days, the nations of the world are all going to gather against, as you said, this little tiny New Jersey-sized land, which makes no sense. But you know what? You can't say you didn't expect it, because you've already seen a shadow. It's the first time when have you seen in world history virtually all nations hatred for one nation all over the world? Not against the Soviet Union. They didn't have it against Hitler, not all nations, but against Israel. It's not natural. It's satanic. It's the dragon.
Right. And the Bible prophesied that would happen before Jesus' second coming. And the thing that really gets me, and we won't get into a whole long thing, but is that a lot of the church is into replacement theology. And so they hate Israel too. But that's a whole long, I'd rather, let's get back to the book, Janie. Okay. Revenge of the Samson, Shimshon, and Gaza. Could you explain that?
Oh, there's so much there. I'll just say this. The amazing thing is when you look at the story of Samson, it's amazing. It actually, it's not like the Hamas is reading it, but the enemy knows this. What happened with Samson is, and it was an Israelite who's taken captive by the Philistines, or in modern terms, Philistine, to where? The city of Gaza. The day that they celebrate this, the word in Hebrew is simcha. It says the Philistines had a festival of simcha. Well, what happened on October 7th was the dragon using that as revenge, the revenge of the Philistines, the revenge of Gaza. Because when did it happen? It happened on a Hebrew holy day that was called Simcha, the same Simcha Torah, same word that's used of the Philistines holiday. And, on the day when Samson was there, he slew, it says, about 3,000 Philistines. Well, it says when the IDF first said how many Hamas people came, now you have the Gazans coming into Israel. It's the revenge of the Gazans. And it says that there were how many? About 3,000, the same exact number.
Unbelievable. Okay, now you write about the dragon's other wars. What are they?
Yeah. Well, this, the dragon's prophecy is not just about Israel. It's about all of us, because it says in Revelation 12 that the dragon warred against the woman, Israel, but then it says he warred against the rest of her children. Who are they? Well, they're linked to Israel. They're not Israel exactly, but they're children of Israel. It's the church. Everyone if you're born again, you're a child of Israel. You're born of Israel. And it actually says in Revelations, those who keep the commands of Jesus. So Messiah. So if you're born again, the dragon is warring against you too. Whenever he wars against Israel, know that he's warring against the church. It's no accident that in the last days, the war is intensifying against Israel, the nations of the world against Israel to destroy it, and against the church, persecution, apostasy. So it's the same thing. So the church and Israel have to come together, which is actually he's doing it. More than ever are Christians being joined to Israel and Israel to Christians. So this is for the end times. There's a war against all of us, and not just if you're a believer. Even if you're watching this and you're not a believer, if you're born in the image of God. So that marks you from the enemy. The enemy has been warring against your life since the moment you were conceived. Some people he uses abuse, he uses addiction, he uses defilement, he uses anger, he uses a million things, but he's warring against you. And so that's why the last part of the book is that how do we overcome? What are the keys? What are the secrets to overcome now and in view of what's going to come?
Yeah, no, you have so much hope in there. And it like, this is not a time to be depressed. This is a time to be, we're winning. We're on the winning side. And you talk about also, it's not, it's not just the dragon that is talked about in Revelation, but the lamb key
Yeah.
and your book is talking about keys to overcoming. Now, so how can people get your book?
Yeah. Well, the Dragon's Prophecy is literally looks like this. You'll see the dragon on the cover. It's literally everywhere. You can go right now online. You can go on Amazon now or any place you get books online. They'll have it. But also, everywhere they have books. Walmart has it. Target has it. Barnes and Noble has it. It's all over. I pray that people get it, not just for themselves, but get it for people in their life who need to be saved or maybe they're saved, but they're not awake or they're not ready or they're not aware of what's coming. And, for the holidays, whatever, get it for other people who need to hear it, who need to read it, need to see it.
Right, because it's also going to explain future events.
Yeah. One
Um,
one of those mysteries is like, Jonah, it's so specific, Jenny. I'm still watching it in awe that may even exactly tell us what's going to happen. And then how do we prepare? How can we overcome? What are the tactics the enemy's using against you? And how do you overcome it?
Wow, Rabbi Jonathan Cahn, you are amazing. Thank you so much for being on my program. And everyone has to get a copy of this book. It explains so much, and I really believe it's going to open up people who are saved. It's going to open up your eyes and also see you'll be on the watch of what's happening in the future. But unsaved people, this is going to open up their eyes too. So
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Janie, thank you always. And also just a quick thing: if people want to get in touch, it's Hope of the World is the ministry, which sends out free teachings, prophecy updates, all that. Just go online. It's hopeoftheworld.org. They'll bless you. But it's the first time I've done an interview where it looks like we're in the same room, and we have the same synthesizer, there, and so there's something there happening. And Janie, thank you for being a blessing from day one with when the Harbinger came out up until right now with the Dragon's Prophecy. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being a blessing in my life and so many others. Thank you so much.
Thank you.